Houston, we have a problem.
The world is searching for the truth. Who are the biblical Israelites? From mysterious comets to whispers of ancient sacrifices, history unfolds amidst chaos. In 700 BC, the Lachish relief immortalized the tribe of Judah, capturing essence in high-definition detail. For centuries, Israel's identity has been hidden, but now the truth can finally be unveiled. Click the link below to get it today. Do you want a short booklet to send to your family and friends to prove you're not crazy? Well, this is it. The undeniable, unforgettable, ancient pictures of Judah for all to see. So, pick up your copy of Who Are the Biblical Israelites today from Amazon and share the truth, one booklet at a time.
Contact light. Okay, engine stop. APA at a descent. Mode control both auto. Descent engine command override off. Engine arm off. 13 is in.
We copy you down, Eagle.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
And we're getting a picture on the TV. There's a great deal of contrast in it, and currently it's upside down on our monitor, but we can make out a fair amount of detail. Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
Sunday, July 20th, 1969. Around the world, nearly 1 billion people watched this moment on television as the first man from Earth prepared to set foot upon the moon.
At the foot of the ladder, the limb footbeds are only depressed in the surface about 1 or 2 inches, although the surface appears to be very, very fine-grained as you get close to it. It's almost like a powder. Ground mass is very fine. I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The idea that those
as the
I spotted a lot of stuff.
Spoke directly with the chief to the
comes in out there, the illumination.
3, 2, 1, 0. 60 seconds.
I saw this illumination that was moving with respect to the stars. We were smart enough to not say, Houston, there's a light out there that's following us. So technically, it becomes an unidentified flying object.
while Neil and Buzz were on the lunar surface. Neil switched to the medical channel and spoke directly with the chief medical officer, saying, they're here, they're parked on the side of the crater, they're watching us.
I spotted a lot of stuff that seemed to not belong on the moon.
As the 45th anniversary of the Apollo 11 mission to the moon dawns, there are many mysteries about man's first lunar landing that remain unsolved. What did the astronauts actually encounter there? And what made NASA stop going back to the moon after Apollo 17?
So are you not positing the idea that those vehicles contain, beings who are, maybe like us?
Yeah, I only go along with government images. And if you want to know about people kind of thing, there is the ship that picked up the Voyager capsule at Alameda Naval Shipyard, and they have a picture there of I think it's the Apollo flight that Buzz and Neil were on. But anyway, there is one image there that shows black people getting off.
So people with dark skin getting off.
Dark black.
Black skin.
Really black. Yeah.
Were they tall?
Yes.
Very tall?
Yeah.
How tall? Do you know?
Well, they got out the doorway. I don't know how high that is, but
well, what?
Say 7 feet would be probably a conservative estimate.
Have you heard about Clark McClellan's statement about that?
No.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
I'm here to discuss the so-called...
Hey, peace and blessings, family. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Hey, just wanted to come on here real quick, family, just to give a quick update, because they have had some updates about the, what folks, or at least NASA was trying to call a comet. So they've had a couple of observatories finally release their data, and it is very interesting. It's very interesting. And actually, for the benefit of those who may not have caught the last video, this is, just wanted to kind of run through some of the video clips from last time, but just to show you, family, that normally, family, we have comets and rocks and asteroids, moving through the night sky, moving through the heavens, so to speak, all the time. Doesn't raise any eyebrows. That's normal, right? We don't really give those two a second thought, right? Well, but in this case, family, what's happening is that the events or the circumstances surrounding this is what's causing people to pause. Also, what's causing people to pause is the way that NASA and these government overseers or gatekeepers are acting about the data. They're trying to fudge stuff. They're trying to be funny with the data, not coming being straightforward with it. Making some obvious errors or misrepresentations of the data in the public. So this is causing people to say, well, you know what? I really wasn't paying attention to this until you all started acting funny, right? And, for those of us that are over, in the Hebraic or Israelite faith, of course, we have all this, what we call the season, the fall season coming up in our, in our community. And mostly starts from people in our community. We observe it in different times and different dates and stuff like that. But in general, it's usually in September, October, November, that sort of time frame. And of course, so in this time frame, we have some important dates coming up. And so, of course, any time that we have some significant events happen around our fall seasons, we pay attention to those, just to make sure that it's not the Most High trying to communicate with us, so to speak. So in addition to that, family, we also took note last time that, hey, all of a sudden you have this rapture alert that's going on over on the Christian community side. They're saying that you have some folks, you probably already heard it, that around September 23rd. It's supposed to be some sort of rapture occurring in the Christian church. We have some folks that are out there putting dates out there. Of course, the scriptures talks about no man knows the day or the hour. However, they're putting a day out there, or at least a couple of dates out there, right? And so that's out there. And then, of course, one of the videos I shared with Mr. with family last time as well is also there's this not really sure where it started from, family, but it's this thing on TikTok, making its rounds on YouTube as well, about somebody saying that these aliens are coming. They're supposed to show up in November, which happens to coincide with this comet, quote unquote comet, that and they're supposed to be African American, not just dark skinned aliens, not just African looking aliens, but African American. So somehow, some way, they're associated with African Americans. So, and like some of the jokes, of course, people were had all kinds of jokes on TikTok about it, talking about like, why are they coming here? Why are they coming here? I would replay that, but I'll just leave that on the other video. But it's hilarious, family. It's funny. But hey, I mean, always keep an open eye. That's my motto. Look at the data. Don't totally shut anything out. Let's just take a look to see what's going on. And so then enter in this comment, right? Enter in this odd, whatever it is, right? And so the circumstances around this is this. So, of course, you guys heard about that red heifer sacrifice that they did over in the land of the state of Israel. And of course, there were some conflicting, testimonials that came out of there. Some people said that it was real. Some folks said that it wasn't real. Some folks said that they were saying that it wasn't real to kind of fake out the government. And then they actually did it with the real heifer and all this other stuff. So needless to say, on July the 1st, they did this red heifer sacrifice over in the land of the state of Israel. Coincidentally, the same day, once they did that, then this red comet, mysterious object, shows up in the sky. It just lights up the sky. I want to say that the telescopes or whatever's pointing towards the sky all of a sudden starts picking up on it. It's like, hey, we see this object is heading towards our solar system. What is it? And they started taking all these different measurements and things like that. And of course, that the narrative that came out initially was, hey, this thing is a comet. And of course, that was from NASA. That was from the the government authorities. We don't really whom we don't really trust all that much. So that's why when it comes to this sort of stuff, we stick to the data. So that's that. And so, of course, so we have all these different, YouTubers and professors. We actually have a professor from Harvard. He's one of the ones that, well, actually the leading one that's actually giving some alternative facts as far as, what this thing is, or what it could possibly be. And, basically he's just saying, just keep an open mind. Right. So said all that to say this, family. Oh, now I also forgot to mention that back in 1977, there was a sound that was picked up from space. Like they had this, they have these different, I want to say observatories. I don't know if they're just microphones. I'm not sure what they are, family. But in 1977, they heard this sound that seemed to come from deep space, from the center of the galaxy, right? And coincidentally enough, the place where this comet comes from, air quotes, is from the place where they heard the sound from deep space in 1977. Again, this is just additional, interesting facts that you just kind of add into the strangeness of what we're seeing. So with all that being said, family, let me go ahead and just play this clip, because again, I didn't want to keep you too long. I know it's during the middle of the day, but let me play this clip. I'm going to play a couple of clips from you, just so that you can hear why, these new revelations they're a little bit strange, and they're causing even people that started off skeptical. They were like, man, what are you guys talking about? This is a comet all day. It's going to have a tail, it's going to have all this other stuff. But then all of a sudden, even the video that I'm going to play for you, on this gentleman's channel, he started off saying that it was a comet. Now he's starting to come around like, I don't know. So let's check this out, family. Let me see if I can pull this up for you, and hopefully the audio's okay on this one. Let's see if we can get it.
Fundamental, unless this object isn't what. New image of 3i Atlas changes everything. The kind of image that was never meant to be seen, not this soon, not by the public, because what it shows defies every model we had. Captured weeks ago and only now released, this frame reveals a massive blood red coma made almost entirely of carbon dioxide, and yet the data is clear. 3i Atlas is venting CO2 at 70 kilograms per second, like a comet, but without behaving like one. So why did NASA wait to share this? Why hold back something so fundamental, unless this object isn't what they thought it was? Or worse, maybe it is. And that's the problem. August 2025. SphereX, NASA's infrared telescope, begins a new observation run. Its target, 3I Atlas, 3.2 astronomical units from the Sun, roughly the orbit of Jupiter. At that distance, most comets begin to stir. Their icy surfaces heat up, water begins to sublimate, tails begin to form. The dance begins. But what Sphere X saw wasn't water. It was carbon dioxide, a glowing, expanding coma stretching 348,000 kilometers wide, almost the distance from Earth to the Moon. Let that sink in. This isn't a tail, it's a sphere, a shell of gas engulfing the object, and composed almost entirely of CO2, not water vapor, not dust, just carbon dioxide, venting into space at a rate of 70 kilograms per second. For context, that's like losing the weight of a human being every second. And yet, no ion trail, no signs of water sublimation, just the coma. But here's the catch. Comets don't behave this way.
Yep. So just to kind of, I'm going to stop it as we go along here, family, just to kind of point out some things, or just to reiterate what he just said. So, because sometimes, he's thrown out a bunch of information and you might not catch it, but basically he's saying that this thing's not acting like a comet. What some folks have been saying all along, that, of course, comets, when you see comets with those long tails, mostly what, is supposed to be made up of water, right? Because these comets are these big balls of ice. And when they get close to the sun causes the ice to melt and it pushes the ice away from it. And so that's what's causing the tail. Tail points away from the sun. And this one's not doing that. And then, so what they were able to do, family, is bring on, get the data from a couple of different additional observatories. One was called Sphere X. So he's talking about Sphere X. And Sphere X, what they were able to confirm was that when they took a look at the coma, so a coma is basically a cloud. They have these different acronyms and names and stuff for various aspects or attributes of the comet. So when you hear somebody say coma, basically it's the cloud in space around this object. And what they were expecting was this cloud to be of ice and water. But what happened was that when they pointed Sphere X at it, they discovered that it wasn't made out of water. So that was red flag number one, right? It was not made out of water, which was, very odd. And then red flag number two was that it was CO2, carbon dioxide. Where have you heard carbon dioxide, right? We inhale oxygen and then we breathe out what? Carbon dioxide. So why is this thing, putting out carbon dioxide? That's interesting. Well, let's keep reading. Let's keep taking a look at this one, family. Check it out.
At this distance from the sun, CO2 activity is usually minimal. It's the water that dominates. Water that creates pressure, that drives jets, that carves tails across the solar wind. But 3I Atlas doesn't follow that script. It emits CO2, and only CO2 in massive quantities. Its water ice, though present, remains locked beneath the surface. Spectral data confirms it. H2O is there, mixed with organic compounds. Why? Some scientists believe that the CO2 is cooling the surface, acting like a thermal blanket, delaying the temperature rise needed for water.
So they're saying that on the surface, the hard surface underneath the cloud, that they believe that they're picking up water, but not in the cloud itself. So it's not ejecting from whatever that surface is. And they're saying that is odd.
To sublimate, others suspect that the water lies deeper, beneath thick layers of dust and ice, too far from sunlight to react. But even those explanations feel incomplete, because this coma is too big, too symmetric, too consistent. It doesn't behave like a chaotic plume of escaping gas. It looks structured, and the silence around it, the lack of water, the absence of a tail, only deepens the mystery. Some researchers have begun comparing it to other cold comets, like those from the Kuiper Belt or Oort cloud, but even then, there's a difference.
Yep, and another thing to point out, family, is that so underneath the cloud, basically what they're saying is that the whatever that is underneath the cloud, they're saying is too structured, right? It doesn't, usually if it's like a rock or asteroid, you have those deformities, right? One side's longer than the other, or one side's bigger than the other one. But this one seems to be symmetric and uniform. And again, that's odd.
Those objects don't emit this much CO2, not at this distance, not with this regularity. So what are we looking at? If the coma raised questions, the core breaks the scale entirely. When 3I Atlas was first spotted, Hubble's estimates were modest, a nucleus less than a kilometer wide, maybe 300 to 500 meters, comparable to 2E Borisov, tiny, cold, predictable. But the new data from SphereX tells a very different story. Analyzing the near-infrared spectrum, scientists noticed something unusual, an abnormally strong flux at 1 micron, reflected light, a lot of it, too much. The models were run again, and again. They all converged on the same conclusion, a nucleus possibly 46 kilometers across. 46, that's not just large, it's catastrophic. That makes 3I Atlas over 1 million times more massive than Borisov. For scale, that's bigger than 90% of the comets we've ever observed. And yet, this object was invisible until a few months ago.
Yep, just popped up on the July the 1st, right after that red heifer sacrifice. And again, he's also pointing out another attribute that was very strange, right? He's saying that the size of this comet, and that's another thing, when NASA first came out, and they were trying to tell people it was just a comet, just big ball of ice. One of the things that they said was like, yeah, no, it's not that big. It's like about 3 miles wide, or whatever that average size of the comet was. It's like, oh yeah, that's all it is. But with this new data that's coming out is saying, no, this thing's massive. This thing's like the size. I mean, what people are saying is like it's the size of Manhattan. It's I think it's like 40 miles. I'm not sure what the conversion is on those metrics, but I believe one of the conversions I heard was like around 40 miles in diameter. Man, that is massive, right? Hurtling through the sky. And what they're saying is that you don't normally see something that big coming through the sky in a precise path, through the solar system. If all the different paths that it could take, is taking a precise path, one that whenever the scientists here on the US want to send out satellites, they normally send it out along that same path in order to do flybys on planets and stuff. Like, they're just saying that, man, this thing is odd.
How? If it's real, if the core is truly that massive, we should have seen it much earlier, even without a tail. Even in interstellar drift, its gravitational signature alone should have distorted background stars. Its coma, vast and full of dust, should have painted the sky. But Hubble doesn't see that. No extended dust cloud, no ion trail, no explosive jets, just a soft red halo and silence. So a second hypothesis emerged. What if we're not seeing the core at all? What if the brightness, more than 99% of it, comes from microscopic particles in the coma, reflecting sunlight back into the telescope? That would shrink the core again, bring it back to familiar territory. But if that's the case, where's the dust? Why is there no visible tail? Why is the coma smooth, without the chaotic jets we expect from outgassing? And there's something else. The reflectivity curve doesn't match a chaotic swarm. It suggests something smoother, more regular, almost controlled. Astronomers call it symmetric reflectivity, a pattern that hints at a consistent surface, not one fragmented by erosion and violence.
So again, he's reiterating what I mentioned before, that the surface of it doesn't seem like some random bumpy asteroid, that it seems like it's something smooth and that it's something uniform. Again, it's checking these boxes for being something that's odd.
So, what are we looking at? A giant, icy body shrouded in its own dust? A smaller object buried in a deceptive cloud? Or something else entirely? An interstellar visitor with geometry, a core that shouldn't exist, surrounded by silence that shouldn't linger, and yet it does. The coma is too wide, the core is too large, and the water is missing. Not completely. Spectral data shows it's there, locked inside, mixed with CO2 and organic compounds, like a frozen memory, but it's not being released, not the way it should. In this region of the solar system, between 2.5 and 3.5 astronomical units from the sun, water ice usually sublimates. It boils into vapor, forms visible jets, and drives the birth of a comet's iconic tail. But 3I Atlas remains quiet. No water coma, no ion stream, just carbon dioxide escaping, alone. Why? One theory suggests that the CO2 is cooling the surface, preventing the water ice from warming up. Another claims the water lies deeper, buried beneath insulating layers of dust. Or perhaps the surface chemistry is simply wrong, different, alien. Some models suggest it's releasing just 4.5 kilograms of water vapor per second.
Yeah, and I agree. I saw somebody in the comment mention that, so how do they know all this stuff? Man, family, though, at the end of the day, they're just guessing, in my opinion. I mean, because they just coming up with all these different hypotheses, right? Oh yeah, the reason why it's not it doesn't have this water cloud around it is because of this, and they just kind of make something up, right? And until they get some additional information, family, that's all it's going to be, is just these random guesses, or what they call scientific guesses at the end of the day.
A tenth of what similar comets would emit at this distance. It's as if 3I Atlas is refusing to wake up, or hiding something beneath its surface, and that's where the silence becomes suspicious. The data from SphereX was collected in early August, but it wasn't shared with the public until much later. No press release, no headlines, just a quiet update buried on NASA's blog. Why? Some argue it's caution, others call it protocol. But a few, a very small, very vocal minority, are asking louder questions. Because this isn't the first time we've seen this pattern. When Oumuamua passed through the solar system in 2017, it too behaved like a comet, but without releasing any visible gas. It accelerated without propulsion. It tumbled without explanation. And it vanished just as quickly. Now, with 3I Atlas, we're watching something similar, except this time, it's bigger, brighter, closer. So, is it just a strange comet? Is this all a coincidence? Most scientists still say yes. It's a natural object, they insist. An outlier, but not an anomaly. Not artificial, not intentional. But others, like Harvard's Avi Loeb, disagree. He points to the symmetrical reflectivity, the unusual trajectory, the missing tail. To him, this isn't just a comet. It's a clue, maybe not of life, but of technology. Something made, not formed. And while that idea may sound extreme, remember, it only takes one object to change everything. Until then, 3I Atlas drifts forward, toward the sun, toward its moment of truth. And we wait. Whatever 3I Atlas is, it's not done surprising us. A coma that shouldn't exist, a core that shouldn't be that big, a silence that feels deliberate. This was supposed to be a comet, a relic from another star system, predictable, harmless, cold, but the deeper we look, the stranger it becomes. And maybe, just maybe, that's why the image was delayed, why the data was buried, why no one wanted to talk about it until now. Because some things aren't ready to be explained, and others were never meant to be understood. But we'll keep watching, because the sky never lies, and neither does the silence between the stars. If you want to keep...
So again, odd observations, family, very odd observations that they're picking up on this thing. And I'm going to play just one more video for you, family. And this is from a gentleman called his channel is called The Angry Astronaut. And he's also going to go over the Sphere X information, but he has a little bit more information than what was on the previous channel that we just saw. So let me see if I can pull his recap up here. Hang on one second, family. I think it's right here.
It seems that every few days, the 3I Atlas interstellar object, whatever it might be, throws us a new curve. Recently, a team of NASA's SphereX Space Observatory researchers just reported tantalizing new data on this object. The observations made between August the 8th and 12th gave us a lot of new information about this object, especially when we're talking about composition. The SphereX Space Observatory views objects in the infrared and is especially designed designed for spectrographic analyses of composition of various types of objects, although mostly interstellar objects. Sphere X was mostly designed to study the galaxy, intergalactic objects, or nebula, that sort of thing. Very seldom was it supposed to be used on objects passing through the solar system. But given that the composition of 3I Atlas was getting stranger and stranger as time went on, NASA decided to point Sphere X at 3I Atlas. And what it discovered was beyond bizarre. Not only is 3I Atlas not putting out the types of chemicals that it should be, that is to say, if it were a comet at this distance, it also appears to be much bigger than anybody thought it was. And if this is true, then an artificial origin becomes that much more likely. And even if it isn't artificial, we now know for certain that it is unlike any object that we have observed passing through the solar system before. An object like this before. We can say that with complete confidence now. Even if this is a natural object, even if it is a comet or perhaps an asteroid, something along those lines, it differs from any object that we have observed in the solar system before. And that includes the other two interstellar objects that we have observed in the past. And also, significantly, 2I Borisov, the only interstellar comet, the only confirmed interstellar comet, and I say that with great confidence now. There's no way that we can confirm that 3I Atlas is a comet at this point. That comet differed so much from 3I Atlas that, again, as I suggested, it's tough to think that 3I Atlas is a comet, or if it is, it's very different from any comet we have ever seen before. Now, I have to be honest, as observations continue to increase and as our knowledge continued to grow about this object and as it got closer to the sun, I frankly expected this thing to start looking more and more like a comet. We would see a tail start to develop, spectrographic analyses would start to show a water coma around it, other types of gases that are characteristic of comets. I mean, frankly, as I've said from the beginning, I always thought that there was a very good chance that this was just a natural comet, but an interstellar comet, a little strange maybe in some ways, especially strange in the way that it's passing through the solar system. But I expected the more information we got and the closer it got to the sun, the more it would start to resemble a comet. And it isn't. Instead, what we are seeing is an object that does indeed seem to be outgassing, does seem to have that kind of behavior, but it seems to only be outgassing one type of gas, CO2. That's it. And that's never happened with any comet we have ever observed in recorded history, at least recorded history to the time to where we could examine the constituent chemical components of any particular object. As long as we've had the ability to tell what an object is made out of at a distance, we've never seen a comet that has done this. And we are only just beginning here because the evidence, as it seems to have been presented, the evidence that we've gathered on this particular study that just came out suggests that not only is 3I Atlas strangely producing CO2 and nothing else, it's also enormous, perhaps as much as 40 kilometers in diameter. And before
Yep. So it's large. It's red. That's another thing. And it's, of course, like we said before, family, it's not giving off the attributes of a comet. So again, family, if this was just a regular comet, nobody would be paying it. Nobody probably wouldn't be paying too much attention to it, family. But because it's odd and it's occurring during this strange season, we're just taking a look at it. We're just making sure, right? But yeah, he's going to point out a few other attributes that the other video didn't point out. And then once he does that, family, we'll go ahead and just go through a few things and wrap this up. Again, I didn't want to keep you too long. I didn't want this to be over an hour. So let's finish this up.
Before I forget, folks, if you could do me a favor, there's a channel that has sponsored mine a couple of times, cash sponsor actually of this channel. It's talk about this latest study and what it means. These new observations from the NASA Sphere-X Space Observatory reveal, as I mentioned before, a cloud of carbon dioxide around 3I Atlas corresponding to a mass loss rate of about 70 kilograms per second. About 70 kilograms worth of CO2 per second is bleeding off of this object, but no water, no H2O was detected, with an upper limit of 4.5 kilograms per second on the water mass loss rate. So once again, even at a much lower loss rate than the CO2, absolutely nothing was detected by the Sphere-X Observatory. And keep in mind, this is a very sophisticated telescope. This thing sees in the infrared range, as I suggested before, and utilizing a technique called spectroscopy, the telescope splits light into 102 colors or individual wavelengths, like a prism creates a rainbow from sunlight. This enables it to detect evidence of chemical compounds and molecules, each of which has a unique signature in the colors it absorbs and emits. Spectroscopy helps scientists measure how far away objects are as well, making it ideal for studying distant galaxies and mapping their locations in 3D. So this is a very significant discovery because previous claims of water detection in recent studies were showing a much higher amount of water in a water coma surrounding the object, which Avi Loeb says was unsubstantiated by the reported data, and this latest study seems to prove that. There seems to be no evidence of water, at least not any sort of water outgassing or water coma surrounding the object at all, and the Sphere-X report doesn't seem to mince any words over that. Quote, "The lack of a bright water gas coma is puzzling, as 3I Atlas was not too far outside the solar system's water ice line at 2.5 astronomical units during the observations." Now, a comet outgassing CO2 with no water gas being present is not without precedent in our solar system. We have observed that. However, comets only outgassing CO2 do definitely have carbon monoxide being outgassed at the same time. So you never have a comet with CO2 being detected without carbon monoxide also being detected, because both of these gases have a much lower temperature sublimation rate, whereas water requires a little bit more heat in order to get sublimation and outgassing. Let me give you an example. Comet 67P at 3 to 4 astronomical units away, so further away from the sun than even this object is at the moment, showed variable outgassing with CO2 dominating, but CO2 H2O ratios still being detected, and carbon monoxide was consistently detected, especially at the deeper layers. This comet was dominated by CO2 outgassing, but still carbon monoxide and water gas was detected. And then the C/2016.
Yep, indeed, that was a word salad. So let's break down what he said, family. So basically, he's saying, family, that it's not unusual for a comet to output CO2. What is unusual is for a comet to output CO2 without carbon monoxide as well. He was like, we don't see that. That's not a thing, right? But this comet is doing that. So the fact that it's only outputting carbon dioxide makes this extremely rare, extremely odd, right? When it comes to, trying to sell this thing as a comet. So yeah, he said a lot of words, and of course, if you're not in that field of study, it may not mean a whole lot to you, but just want to put that out there, let you hear from him what he's saying. Let me see if let's see if he wraps this up. Let's just go on just a little bit further.
6 astronomical units. We're talking about almost 1 billion kilometers away from the sun, and still had active outgassing with carbon monoxide-driven outbursts, with carbon monoxide production rates often exceeding CO2. H2O is typically undetectable at those kinds of distances because, once again, that far out it is so cold that you're not going to get any water sublimation. So we expect to see a comet with just carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide at those kinds of distances. But once again, there is no precedent for a comet that has CO2 outgassing with nothing else. Now, what's even more mind-blowing is the fact that the Sphere X images show 3I Atlas as a point source. In other words, the nucleus seems to be generating the light. No dust coma was resolved, implying that the glow of scattered sunlight around the object in the Hubble Space Telescope image is compact and amounts to small amounts of dust, indicating that either this thing is generating its own light or it's very, very big. The Sphere X images were taken at specific wavelengths near the characteristic emission lines of water, carbon dioxide, and carbon monoxide. No coma was detected, as I mentioned before, with either water or carbon monoxide. However, the CO2 image shows a symmetric cloud around 3I Atlas with a brightness that declines with projected distance to the power of -3 out to distances of at least 348,000 kilometers. That's almost as far out as the orbit of the moon around our planet. But most interestingly, the flux detected at a wavelength of 1 micrometer from 3I Atlas suggests a large nucleus with a diameter of 40.
All right, so we're not going to go through that whole thing, family. But long story short, it is large. It is giving off all this light. They're having a hard time trying to explain it. Basically, it's either a very large, very shiny object, or it's a smaller object giving off its own light, producing its own light, as in like headlights or something like that, right? So anyway, but they're trying to figure out what's going on with the family. Like I said, it's not behaving like your usual run-of-the-mill comet. So definitely wanted to share that with your family. And before I leave you today, family, just want to share with you this report. So there were, as I said before at the beginning of the podcast, and that is there were two observations that were released. One was Sphere X, which is what we saw, and then the other one, which was released this morning, was from the James Webb Observatory. Now that one they captured earlier this month, but it wasn't released until this morning. And so a lot of scientists and astronomers were waiting to get their hands on this data. And of course, the Harvard professor Avi Loeb, he does a good job of turning those observations into paper. So he took a look at that and he dropped the paper early this morning. And this is what you see on the screen. And this is from the Medium, is where he normally does his posts. And it's called, the first Webb telescope observations of 3I Atlas. So long story short, of course, there's a bunch of word salad in here as well, family. But the main thing here, family, is that this one also confirms what the Sphere X observed, which was this thing is putting out carbon dioxide and very little carbon monoxide and H2O, which is very odd for the comet. And so I pulled this up just to show you one of the comments that he put in his paper. And this is one of the things that I also saw someone in the chat mention the same thing. Of course, when we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide. So somebody put in the chat, and I thought the same thing, and that is, well, is something in there breathing? You know what I mean? Something in there breathing and living and putting out that carbon dioxide. Who knows? Just kind of thinking through this thing. And he mentions something to that effect in his paper, where he says, to put 3I Atlas into perspective, a human produces about 1 kilogram of CO2 or carbon dioxide per day. And it says the mass loss of 3I Atlas of 129 kilograms per second amounts to the CO2 output of about 10 million people. A space platform which measures 46 kilometers in diameter could potentially host the needed population of biological passengers if they are packed as densely as humans are on Manhattan Island. So he's just basically just saying that, well, it is putting out carbon dioxide. So if you do the math, and if these things were human, it would be about 10 million people, on that piece of rock that's about the size of Manhattan Island, which could fit. So he's just throwing it out there. He's postulating, as a scientist, just throwing that out there that, it's odd that it's just throwing out carbon dioxide. It's large as the Manhattan, which can hold about 10 million people. And it's putting out that just about that much carbon dioxide. He was like, just keep that and put a pin in that one and save that one for later. So anyway, just want to put that out there for your family. It's interesting. Most High willing, we'll keep an eye on this. Definitely have these feast days coming up, and we'll keep an eye on what's going on. I remember just last thing, family. I know when we had the solar eclipses go across the U.S. and it make that Aleph and the Tav. And, one of the videos I put out was that, of course, the Aleph and the Tav, that is the sign of the Son of Man. That's the sign of the Son of Man. Because the Messiah himself says that I am the Aleph and the Tav. Of course, in the Bibles that folks have nowadays, it says I'm the Alpha and the Omega. But no, it's really I'm the Aleph and the Tav. That's the Hebrew. Those are the Hebrew, letters, right? And and so when the eclipse made the sign of the Aleph and the Tav, there were those like myself who were saying, well, hey, that's the sign of the Son of Man. This is yet another sign that we are truly in the end times, and that the prophetic time clock is clicking, is moving forward. And really, one of the things that I took a look at was, like, if you took a look at the book of Matthew, chapter 24, and it's talking about the last, the end times and the things to look out for the end times, and how things are supposed to unravel, the sequence of events, so to speak. And you can check this out. Let's see, verse 29. It says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Right. And it says, and then shall the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. So, if for this family, it's one of those things where if you get the children of Israel wrong, you're going to miss these signs. Like if you don't know who the people of Israel are, and then how these signs were fulfilled, they're just going to be all over the place, because there's some folks that are looking at the tribulation of those days to come, or the tribulation could have passed, transatlantic slave trade and all this other stuff. But we'll say that for another time. But said all that to say, when you look at the sequence of event, there are some folks that will, as you're going down the sequence of event, they can, they look at this and they can check this off. They can say immediately after the tribulation of those days, check. The sun will be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven. Check. And the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Check. Right. And it says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. Check. Right. We had those eclipses. It made the Aleph and the Tav, what people call the Alpha and the Omega, across the U.S. Right. Made that big old X, and the Aleph, the sign of the Aleph. And it says, and then shall all tribes of the earth mourn. So basically, once folks see this sign, there's going to be a like a worldwide or nationwide, well, I guess worldwide, mourning that, oh man, we are truly in the last days. We know something's up. And in fact, when the Aleph and the Tav took place, you could hardly find a place on the internet where people weren't talking about this, where even in whether it be mainstream media, whether it be in the Christian community, they were talking about, man, we know that these are the last days, that this sign means something, and that this sign is an omen of destruction against this country. Now I'm over here in the US, and there was a general consensus that the signs of the Aleph and the Tav were a bad omen for the US. And so, of course, some people would look at that and they could say check, right? They could check that off, on their the prophetic calendar, check that off on the sequence of events that has to take place before the Messiah returns. So let's go back to verse 30. We're at Matthew chapter 24, verse 30. And it says, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn." But this is what got me, family. Like, immediately after those two things, sign of the Son of Man in heaven, tribes of the earth mourning, what comes next, family? It says, "And they shall see the Son of Man coming in clouds of heaven with power and great glory." Like, that's next, family. That is literally the next thing that we are supposed to see if these two prerequisites, or if these other or sequence of events have already occurred, right? Like, again, Aleph and the Tav occurred. Some people would say check. Tribes of the earth mourn. Some people could say check. So the very next thing is that the Hamashiach is supposed to be coming in clouds of heaven with power. Now, I know that there are different beliefs out there, different thoughts out there around where we are on the prophetic time clock. Some people would say, well, we hadn't even got past step one yet. They still waiting on step one. I understand all that, but we understand too, family, that at the end of the day, when y'all see him coming, then y'all know y'all wrong. Right? When you see Hamashiach coming, you be like, everybody that thought differently should be like, oh, my bad. Yeah, you're right. We on this step now. He's here. He's here. So anyway, long story short, family, I just want to let you know that depending on where you are in your belief as far as the prophetic time clock, he could be coming. He could be coming. So this is why people are paying attention to the sky, right? And trying to see what's, anytime we see something odd out there, because obviously, family, because it's listed as they shall see the Son of Man coming, that's a major event that's supposed to happen. We're supposed to see him coming, not, of course, how it happens is up for interpretation. Feel free to pull, additional information, consult other books about it. I'm not the expert on that, so I'm sure there are other we call Bible thumpers out there that have that information. But just putting that out there, family, that the next chapter in the book, if you believe that that the sign of the Son of Man has already occurred, is that he's coming. And so how would he look when he comes? And that's the next phase, family. So he's supposed to go and look at the scriptures to see what he looks like when he's coming. What is the Messiah wearing when he's coming? Guess what? He's wearing red. Guess what? He will be shining brightly. Guess what? He's supposed to have a cloud and coming with power and glory. Now that is open for interpretation. I have no idea what that means, as far as like visual wise when he comes, but it just says he's supposed to look as though he coming in power and great glory. Hallelujah. So again, when I hear that there's something coming that is red, that's in the cloud, I'm not saying that that's a Mashiach. But what I am saying, family, is that sounds a little bit, is similar enough, at least for me to take a peek and take a look and keep an open mind. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, family. So just want to put that out there, family. Hamashiach has red when he comes back. Hamashiach is in the cloud when he comes back. So if you're wise, depending on where you are with your understanding of the prophetic calendar, I would say look for something red with a cloud and keep an open mind. That's all I'm saying. So with that being said, family, I know some of you may be at work, so won't keep you any longer. Get back to work. Love your family. Peace and blessings, and we will catch you all later. Do want to have always do want a shameless plug. My two books are out there. Who Are the Biblical Israelites? That one is out on Amazon. It is the number one new release in I want to say Palestine and Israel history on Amazon. So praise be to the Most High for for working through you to help get that to the #1 spot. So thank you, family. So, but if you haven't gotten it, again, the purpose of that book, family, is a quick, short, small booklet, either for you or that you could purchase for someone else to show them without a shadow of a doubt who the children of Israel are. It is hands down that book, right? Because after you read that book, after that page 32, it's a done deal. No argument. I'm seriously, there's no argument to be had in that book after page 32. Who they are, what they look like, and what they don't look like. It is in that book. And then the other one is Black History Case Files. That book is out there as well on Amazon as well as other platforms. But I do recommend using Amazon because they are really, really good at getting that book out to you fast. So, all right, said all that. Peace and blessings. Love your family. Talk to you later, and shalom.
Houston, we have a problem.
The world is searching for the truth. Who are the biblical Israelites? From mysterious comets to whispers of ancient sacrifices, history unfolds amidst chaos. In 700 BC, the Lachish relief immortalized the tribe of Judah, capturing essence in high-definition detail. For centuries, Israel's identity has been hidden, but now the truth can finally be unveiled. Click the link below to get it today. Do you want a short booklet to send to your family and friends to prove you're not crazy? Well, this is it. The undeniable, unforgettable, ancient pictures of Judah for all to see. So, pick up your copy of Who Are the Biblical Israelites today from Amazon and share the truth, one booklet at a time.